Fourth section of the Aeroplane in War by Claude Grahame-White and Harper. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Importance of organization in the use of war aeroplanes. 1. French plans for the concerted use of squadrons of machines in time of war. After describing the air fleets with which far-seeing nations are now arming themselves, another point arises, and a point which is of supreme importance. This concerns the organization of the military air service. In organization, it is clear, will lie the secret of success when aeroplanes are used in time of actual war. France has certainly more right to speak on this subject than any other country because she knows. Her experience has indeed been unique. She has bought machines, trained men, and has already dissected the results obtained from many experiments, and her greatest authorities affirm definitely that it is not sufficient to have a large number of machines or a big corps of men. What any nation must possess, they say, in order to make its air fleet really efficient, is faultless organization. Aeroplanes, either for scouting or destructive work, cannot be operated in haphazard style. Combination is essential. Every requisite of the air service must be in its place and ready to hand, and everyone must know his work and do it with precision, from the aeroplane pilot to the humble mechanic. It is upon this question of organization that the French authorities have been concentrating themselves. They see its vital importance and are determined to formulate definite, practical schemes for the employment of large squadrons of machines. In this work, M. Milhaud, the French Minister of War, has been most active. It is held that a fleet of aeroplanes should be divided up into separate aviation squadrons, each complete in itself, and that these depots should be attached to the various army corps. Thus each squadron would act with its own army corps, performing its scouting and other work, and moving from place to place with the corps. In command of an aviation squadron, without doubt, should be an officer of great experience. Already, as a matter of fact, such men are being produced. They are officers who have gone through the whole routine of flying and know every practical detail of the work, besides possessing a general knowledge of tactical operations. Such a commander of aeroplanes should be constantly in touch with the officer in charge of the whole army corps. When military operations reach a stage that demands a rapid aerial reconnaissance, this officer in charge of aeroplanes will be called into conference and told exactly what is required. He, in his turn, will indicate how his airmen can go to work, and he will then transmit orders to the pilots and observers, and also summarize their reports for the benefit of headquarters after a reconnaissance has been carried out. The value of such an officer, possessing complete practical experience, would be very great. The question might arise, for example, as to whether the wind was too high to allow a scouting expedition to be made. The commanding officer would, in such circumstances, promptly consult the commander of aeroplanes, who would come to an expert decision without any misunderstanding or delay. Operating with the commander of aeroplanes should be other officers, all experienced men, and each specializing in one branch of aerial work. There should be an officer immediately in charge of the airmen. To this officer would fall the task of seeing that each scout thoroughly understood the work that he had in hand, that he was adequately equipped, and that his reports were presented in proper form. Then should come an officer in command of the engineers. His would be important work. The engineers in charge of aeroplanes represent highly skilled men whose work is vital to the success of aerial operations. Several of them are usually detailed to each machine. When aeroplanes are on active service, replacements and repairs will need constantly to be made, and the officer in charge of engineers will be called upon to superintend this work and to see that all machines in the corps are in first-class condition. An aeroplane, at any rate as at present constructed, is a machine that needs unremitting attention in a variety of small ways. The use of a fleet of machines in time of war will mean that a very highly organized staff of mechanics, under the supervision of a thoroughly competent officer, will be required. Then there may be a third officer, whose duty will be to take charge of all the baggage, supplies, and transport of the air service. His task will, it is clear, be no light one. There should be a number of motor repair cars in connection with each aeroplane squadron, ready to move out at a moment's notice and succor an airman who may have come down through mechanical defects. These breakdown gangs will form a very important adjunct to the work of the aeroplane in wartime. The question of transport is very important. As an army marches from point to point, so the aeroplanes attached to it will have to move also. Airmen will, in many cases no doubt, fly their machines from point to point, but there will probably be occasions when machines will need to be dismantled and transported by road or rail. In such circumstances, the transport officer will be a busy man. In his hands also will lie the work of bringing up the supplies of petrol and oil which the aeroplanes will need. The French organization already strives to be as perfect as is possible, seeing that active service conditions are yet to be encountered. Motor wagons are provided for the transport of airplanes. Other and slower wagons bring up portable hangars. Then come heavier lorries carrying spare parts and similar equipment. Bringing up the rear are motor wagons in the form of portable workshops. The mere detailing of any such scheme as that outlined above affords an indication of the necessity for perfect organization in the use of war aeroplanes. With machines improperly employed, with airmen carelessly instructed, and with repair depots badly equipped, no nation can hope to make a success of its air service. The determination of France in this regard is beyond all praise. Aeroplanes are being allocated to frontier forts. Practical discussions are taking place frequently at the Ministry of War. It is intended to establish an annual overhaul of war aeroplanes so that obsolete machines may be removed from the active list and relegated to the flying schools. In all this, France is finding things out for herself. She has no precedent to guide her. This makes the work she has already accomplished all the more valuable. How far advanced the French air service is, and how admirably arranged is its scheme of operation, only the practical work of war will reveal. 2. Value of air stations. Selection of landing grounds. Preparing air maps. A very important feature of the organization of an air corps, especially in times of peace, is the permanent air station. Here one finds machines, men, and the whole equipment of military aviation work. Of such stations France now possesses quite a number. An essential of such an air station is a good maneuvering ground for aeroplanes. Then comes the need to erect a number of sheds for the machines. Also necessary is a completely equipped repair shop in which damages, generally brought about by experimenting with machines, may be repaired. At one or two of the chief French air stations the equipment is so complete that there are commodious shops for the building of aeroplanes, in addition to any repair work undertaken. Another and very important feature of a well-organized air station is the school for military pupils under the charge of an officer of experience. Another detail of aerial organization, regarding which both France and Germany are concerning themselves, is the selection of a number of landing places for aeroplanes, preferably in the vicinity of large towns. Military authorities in France are enlisting municipal aid in this matter. The idea is to fix upon an aerodrome or suitable landing place outside all cities or towns of importance. Once chosen, the ground will be set aside for the arrival and departure of aircraft. and in connection with it there will be a small permanent repair shop. Apart from their use for military flying, and particularly in connection with long reconnoitering flights, such landing places scattered all over the country should, it is contended, do a great deal towards popularizing touring by air, seeing that an aerial voyager would have some definite alighting point in view when flying from point to point. Besides such general aspects of organization as have already been touched upon, France has foreseen the need for providing her air corps with suitable maps to use when flying across country, and particularly when on reconnoitering work. The officers who flew in the autumn maneuvers of 1910 were able to report the need for such maps, a clear indication of the value of practical flying in revealing exactly what is required. The geographical department of the French army went to work with characteristic promptitude. The result is that special air maps are being prepared so as to cover in sections the whole of France. In connection with these maps, the plan is to eliminate all unnecessary detail. When flying fast and high, an airman sees only the bold outline of what lies below him, and so, when glancing quickly at a map, he seeks to find on it some prominent landmark which will tell him where he is. On French military maps, the roads, which an airman always sees well, are colored white, woods are green, and railway lines, which always form an excellent aerial guide, are prominently marked. So are such landmarks as spires and towers. Good alighting grounds and air stations are shown, and the presence of telegraph wires, a menace when making a descent, are also indicated. With the help of such maps as these, French military airmen are now making long cross-country flights almost daily without fear of losing their way. It is now possible also to fit a reliable compass to aeroplanes. The result is that, with a special map and a good compass, an airman can fly with accuracy from point to point, even over strange country. End of fourth section.